All right, hey, what's going on, guys? We have a great question here from T. Man, this is, we're talking about this particular house that we're getting ready to finish up, the 401 MLK property. If you guys haven't seen it, it's called Getting Ready to Finish Another One. So she has some questions here I want to answer. So she says, great video. A few questions came up. Sorry for the brain dump after watching. You mentioned air conditioning inspection, electrical inspections, etc. Is there an order of inspections? Are any ever combined and completed by the same inspector? No. There is an order, but no, they're not typically done by them, by the same inspector. So check this out. So if we go here, so let's go to the classroom, the very first one, building basics. If you go here to building basics, so inside of building basics, we have four tabs: intro, planning phase, building phase. So in the building phase, if you open up that tab, you're going to come down to the most common inspections, which is this one here. Now, if you go in here, you'll see basically from the very, very beginning, kind of the process of what the inspection is going to be looking like, but also to give you a kind of a perspective of the order, the sequence, right? This is not a hard, like this is how it has to happen, but this is kind of like just a guideline, okay? Because every place is going to be a little bit different on how they're willing to do it. So right now at this 401 MLK, we're at the very, very end of this particular one. So we are going to look at this one here at number 15. So we're at inspection number 15. So these are all the inspections that typically you have to go through when it comes to new construction. Don't be daunted by that. It's really not that complicated. The majority of these inspections actually are not even stood by you as the builder or as the owner. It's the people that have the master license who are required to stand these inspections. So that's their responsibility, right? So here, number 15, it says electrical final inspection. And I put this one first because you have to have electricity to all these other ones here, right? The microwave, the furnace, the mechanical inspection, like all these need to be connected. So one of the other things that people fail to realize is that, well, I'll say this, I failed to realize when I first was doing this stuff is that all the appliances have to be in place before that you can pass the final inspection. So for example, here, if we go to the plumbing, you can't pass the final plumbing inspection until you have the dishwasher in. For the air conditioning, you can't pass the final inspection until you have the microwave in. Now, in this scenario for the plumbing, the plumber doesn't bring the dishwasher. And in this air conditioning scenario, the air conditioning guy does not provide the microwave. So those are on us as the builders, as the owners, that we have to provide those for them. And those need to be in place before they can pass their final inspection. So no, there is no like specific sequence or order, but the biggest issue really is having the appliances there on site. That's really the biggest thing that most people don't really remember to do. Let me back up. Where was I here? Here we are. Okay. Next, do you always order the aesthetics at the end? So at the end, mirrors, bulbs, etc., the chandelier, the black fixtures, and all this stuff. Yes, I do because see, I don't have like a warehouse, right? And you probably don't have a warehouse where you can store some of this stuff if you find something that's a good price. If you have a garage and if you have space, if you have somewhere where you can store some of this stuff as you're going through and you're like, that is a really great price. Now, I've done this, right, with faucets for sinks in the bathrooms. I do this all the time. If I'm walking around Home Depot or Lowe's and I see, four sets of faucets and they're all like clearance section and they're the stuff that I'm like, dude, I'm getting those things. They're like $40 or something like that. I'm all over that. But the majority of the time I don't normally get that stuff first because those types of things are they get stolen very easily from the job site. So you have to be able to have somewhere you can secure them, light fixtures, plumbing fixtures, those types of things. So it's really up to you. If you have extra storage or somewhere where you can put them, yeah, absolutely. Get them before if you find a good deal on them. But I typically wait until the very end. You love the color contrast and the shutters. How do you identify cost-effective ways to potentially increase your appraisal value? B2R model for DSCR. Listen, the biggest things that I do for the appraisal are really the things that you can see. So, believe it or not, this is really wild, right? Because appraisers, they go off of like what they can see. They can't see behind the wall, so they don't know that I used, a different type of insulation, for example. Because unless I tell them that I did the foam insulation, right, the stuff that that goes in the walls, that's that specialty stuff. They won't. They're not going to give me a better price for that. They don't care if it's like the stuff that we typically use, which is the bats insulation. It doesn't matter to them. The property's going to appraise for what it appraises for, regardless of the insulation. The sheetrock, whether I use, this is really crazy. So you can use 2x4 walls on the exterior. You can even use 2x6 walls. But is it going to really affect the appraisal value? It really is not. Why would someone use a wider wall, right? The reason why is because if you use a 2x6 wall, the insulation is bigger, so that it makes the house more energy efficient. But no one is, the appraiser's not going to really give you that massive bump in value that you probably want. So there's a few things that traditionally give you a bump in your appraisal. That's going to be the roof, which you can see. That's going to be the windows, making sure that those are the ply gym windows that we're using. Those are sufficient. We're not using like garbage windows. The countertops, right? We're using the granite things, as you can see right there. We're using those. The cabinet handles to give it that aesthetic look. A nice, decent backsplash. Nice, decent baseboards, like the doors themselves. We use these 5-panel doors that you guys have been seeing. I mean, tile in the bathrooms. That's it. What else is there really? 9-foot ceilings, fans in the master bedroom, the chandelier. I mean, believe it or not, guys, and I hate to be so, so, so like, blasé about it, but it's not. I mean, it's really the stuff that you can see, which is the stuff that really like actually costs not that much more. And so that's why I do certain things like that to like make the appraisals, bump. The shutters, aesthetically from the outside looking in, it's like, whoa, wow, right? It's like, whoa, look at this. It looks awesome. And so that's the stuff that's going to give me that little bump that I want on my appraisal, right? I don't want to get, I don't want to be on the lower end of new construction appraisal. That's what I don't want to be. All right. So that's what's going to help your appraisal. The thing is that on the appraisal, you get two valuations. You get one valuation for the actual structure itself. So like the property, like this one, for example, is going to appraise for like, say, we'll just call it a round number. It's going to appraise for $400,000, right? Now, that's the property value. And so the lender's going to say, okay, we need to have at least 20% equity in that. What's 20% of 400? That's going to be $80,000, right? So basically, the lender's going to say you have to have at least 20% equity so we can lend you up to $320,000 technically, right? That's just how they position it. We don't want to borrow up to $320,000. It's a bit much. But the point I'm trying to make is that that's one number. The number is the appraisal value because that's what they go off of. The next number is going to be the rents. So in the appraisal process, they will give you a number for the structure and they'll give you a second number for the rents. Those numbers are fixed, right? So like, for example, like you can challenge the appraisal and say, no, I think my property's valued more. Or, wow, we got a really good appraisal, like it valued more than I thought it would be, which is great, which it won't matter in 10, 15, 20 years. Like it won't, what the property appraises for today won't matter, right? But the big number that does matter in the appraisal for these B2R projects that we're doing right now is the number that is assigned for the rents. So in the appraisal, when you get a DSCR loan, you're getting one number for the value of the property and you're getting another number for how much each unit should rent for. And they're they're using that number to drive the entire thing, if that makes sense. And I can do the numbers for you on some other video, but that's basically it. So what we're wanting is that these properties, for the second number to be at least $1,700. That's what we want. Somewhere close to $1,700. Because if we can bring in $3,400 based off the appraisal value, then that's going to make a $300,000 refinance super easy, right? It's going to make it super, super easy. Even if we wanted to go to 320, it would make it super, super easy. Because we're covering the PITI by more than a factor of 1.1 or 1.0 very, very easily. And I can explain that more, but the second number, the appraiser is going to give you a value for the structure, and they're going to give you a value for how much they think the property should rent for. So if this second number is like something low, like $1,200, it doesn't matter that the property appraised for $500,000. It doesn't matter, because the second number is going to drive how much they'll lend to you. Great for you that it appraised for $500,000, but because this thing only appraised, or the rent numbers are low, like $1,200 or whatever, then they're only going to lend you, I don't know, $200,000 or something like that, right? And this thing costs way more than $200,000 to build. So hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of a roundabout way to answer that question, but I really need you guys to understand that. And if I need to make another video with like more information about that to kind of break down those numbers for you, please let me know, because I need you guys to understand that. Really, I really do. When you do a DSCR, do rates vary based on criteria? How is the PITI for your build? I know you said that you watched the other video. So, I mean, I just answered it right now, right? Your credit score does go into consideration when it comes to a DSCR loan, and you have to have some cash reserves. So, if you have more cash reserves, better. If you have a better credit score, better. But at the same time, like, don't be too freaked out about it. Honestly, refinancing a duplex, in my experience, is so much easier than refinancing a single family home, even if it's new construction. Does your solid landscape play a role in an appraisal? No, I don't think it does. I mean, if you want to put some flowers or something like that up front, okay, good for you. But like it's negligible. Or no, I'm gonna go with no, absolutely not. Is there a fence or backyard for this project? There is a front yard for this project, and that's really it. And we've been talking about putting in like a chain link fence, but not like the traditional like metal looking chain link fence, like a black, uh, the coated with that plasticky thing to make it look cooler or whatever. Because the city's not going to allow like a big like 6 foot fence across the side there. They're going to say no to that. So we have to come up with something a little bit different. But either way, people are going to have a yard, which is kind of cool. So we'll just separate it so that way, the pets don't go use the bathroom in the other people's yard and so on and so forth, and then becomes a discussion. But we definitely have to have some sort of delineation of separation of some sort. So cool. All right. That's all the answers that I got for this. Sorry, it was a little longer than I expected, but I really want you guys to understand the DSCR thing, because it took me quite a bit of time to understand it and figure that out. I was just going through the motions, like, okay, pretending like I knew what I was doing when I first started, buying rentals many, many years ago, and was just signing off on stuff as like, I don't get it. Okay, whatever. But now that I understand it, it's why these duplexes make such a big, big difference than trying to refinance a single family home.